The House Committee on Environmental Regulation will come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Chair Landgraf.
Here.
Vice Chair Guerra.
Here.
Bell.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Kemple.
Here.
Lopez. Meza.
Here.
Morales Shaw. Reynolds.
All right, a quorum is present. I want to welcome my colleagues on the committee, the witnesses who have joined us today, and everyone watching the proceedings. Thank you all for your attendance and participation. Before proceeding to public testimony and laying out bills, I would like to issue a reminder to anyone present wishing to testify before this committee. Please register at the kiosks located in the hallways behind the hearing rooms. If you require assistance in registering or testifying, please see our Assistant Committee Clerk Praz here at the front. At this time, the chair lays out House Bill 4819 and recognizes Representative Martinez to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. And House Bill 4819 seeks to ensure that all entities that receive a TCEQ permit also meet the requirements of a municipal permit if applicable. We've been working well with TCEQ. They're giving us some language. This was mainly when we filed this. It was kind of a skeleton bill because just to kind of give you a little history of what's going on, in the city of Mercedes, there's an entity that was, I guess, utilizing their sewage system and had a lifetime TCEQ permit, but did not obtain a permit from the city to do to work there. So when the city came up and asked them to go and purchase a permit, they never did, and they're working illegally. So we're working with TCEQ to kind of address this to where if an entity does have a lifetime TCEQ permit, which of course they've followed all the rules and regulations, that they must also follow the municipal regulations, and we're working on committee substitute right now, Mr. Chairman, and I'll entertain any questions.
Great. Well, thank you for the layout, members. Are there any questions? Okay, we do have a couple of witnesses, and at this time, the chair calls Julie Nargang. Thank you for being here today. We show you registered to testify as Julie Nargang on behalf of the Water Environment Association of Texas and on behalf of the Texas Association of Clean Water Agencies and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great.
And for the record, my name is Julie Nargang. I'm the Executive Director of the Water Environment Association of Texas and Texas Association of Clean Water Agencies, and I am indeed here to testify against the bill as it's currently written. I'm happy to hear that there are committee substitutes in the works, and I'm excited to see those when they do come up. But as far as testimony on the bill as it's written, we believe that it's overly broad and generalized, and we see it as a problem of authority for our permitted entities and the TCEQ. As it's written, the TCEQ would be required to add on local ordinances, rules, or other measures to a TIPDES permit, and that's outside of the agreed-upon issuance of the TIPDES permits between the EPA and the TCEQ. So it brings other measures, which neither the TCEQ nor the EPA are in control of, and are infinitely broad into these permits. So what if those other measures are less stringent than a TIPDES permit? And conversely, what if they're more stringent than what's typically in the permit? How is the permitted entity able to plan for capital improvement projects, since this would be a broad state-applied bill? It creates a moving target, both within the city and from city to city for the TCEQ. So we believe that embedding this requirement within permits is simply the wrong place to address a specific concern, and simply put, bringing a federal program mandated by the Clean Water Act with delegated authority to the TCEQ by the EPA in compliance with any local ordinance, rule, or other measure creates too much uncertainty. And with that, I want to thank the chairman and members for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you again, Representative Martinez, for your work on this bill.
Yeah, thank you for your testimony. Vice Chair Guerra.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your testimony here today. I'm familiar with this because it has been in our local news. I'm also from Hidalgo County, but the city of McAllen. Could you, I think maybe you touched on it, but could you explain what it is? Has there been any negotiations at all with Representative Martinez?
Sorry, can you state that again? Have there been negotiations at all, or I didn't quite understand?
Have you been through any negotiations at all? Any discussions at all?
I have not personally talked to Representative Martinez, but folks and my members have, and we have been in conversation, and I believe the committee substitute, I have not seen it, but if what I've heard does come to the fore, it would address all of our issues, yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll speak with Representative Martinez about this in more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Representative Dean, I'm sorry, let the record show that Representative Morales-Shaw is present. Representative Dean.
Chairman, I'll ask the witness, but maybe you could help too. But I'm just, with the 2127 preemptive bill that we just voted on, would that have some bearing? Are you familiar with Chairman Burrows' preemptive bill, 2127?
Not enough to answer
heard.
questions on it right now.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
It's possible that there could be some crossover, but until it's enacted.
Action law, right?
That's right.
But I would still think it'd be something y'all should look into, because that's part of what the bill tries to do. Is you mentioned one city has an ordinance and the other cities. This is the sort of
That's right.
bring them all together. So I would just suggest you might want to take a look at that.
I appreciate that, I sure
Okay.
will.
Members, any other questions? Representative Meza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, if I understood you correctly, your concern is that there might be, that an entity might be confused on what rule they might follow, that there might be a conflict in the rules, and which rule do I follow? Is that right?
Yes, that's a part of the concern, not the entire concern, yes.
Because in reading this bill, I thought that it was saying that the permit doesn't override a municipal ordinance, so the entity would have to follow the city ordinance. So it doesn't seem like that if they had said, well, TCEQ says this and the city says that, then this bill says if you have a TCEQ permit, you still have to follow the local ordinances. Is that the way you understand it?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, I believe so. My reading of the bill is that this TIP-D's permit would have to incorporate anything previously established as a local ordinance or other measure locally. And these permits come up for renewal every 5 years. So if something were to happen within that interim, within the 5-year renewal timeline, then that permit, the TCQ would have to grab that local ordinance and include it, graft it on to the permit. And then the POTW, or that municipality, would then have to follow that. And that makes it exceptionally difficult for municipalities across Texas to plan for capital improvement projects. So to issue bonds, to get the money, to be able to go out and grab that 10 years in advance if there's a local ordinance that they don't know that could just pop up on their radar, a year, 6 months or so before that permit renewal. And so meeting the requirements of that permit when they're unknown, previously unknown, becomes exceedingly difficult.
And so your concerns regarding this bill, you feel that they've been addressed in the substitute?
From what I know of the substitute, yes, I do. Yes, Representative.
All right, good. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. The chair calls Shay Pearson. Welcome back. We have you in the record as Shay Pearson on behalf of the Texas Chemical Council, and that you're testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
Thank you. Please proceed with your
Commissioners of the
testimony.
committee, Mr. Chairman, Shay Pearson, I'm General Counsel with Texas Chemical Council, as just stated. Respectfully testifying in opposition to House Bill 4819 as filed, and not to go into too much detail because my concerns were kind of reflected in the previous testimony, and they center around the concerns regarding the blanket effects on the water quality permitting system as a whole and the water rights permitting process in Texas. And we've been in communications with Representative Martinez's office, and I would like to thank him personally in my testimony for having an open door policy and working to address concerns of folks that this would affect. And our conversations with him and his staff have been very fruitful, and we are very confident moving forward that the language in the committee substitute will address our concerns. That concludes my testimony, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Members, I do want to let you know, after having some discussions with some of the committee members, that I would let you know when we have resource witnesses available. We do have a resource witness from TCEQ available to testify should any of you find it necessary to have them come testify. All right. So is there anyone else wishing to testify on, for, or against this measure? If not, Chair recognizes Representative Martinez to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Just a little bit of clarification. First of all, yes, this bill was overly broad, but we had to do a skeleton bill before the deadline so we could have something to file. And then we've been working with all the stakeholders to address their issues and their concerns. The other thing I just want to make you inform you about is that if you're an electrician or a plumber and you're going to build a house and you have your state license, but you go to build that house, you still have to get a permit from the city. And that's all we're asking these entities to do that are going to perform work in the city, to go get a permit just so that you could do it legally. It's not about ordinances. It's just about a permit to make sure that you're able to provide that service within the city. So if an electrician is building a house or a plumber is building a house, uses state certification, pays for a permit, goes, and in order for him to have the inspection, he has already followed those requirements by the city in order to build that home. Same thing we're doing here. We just want to make sure that any entity that's going to do work in the city is doing it legally and has followed the permitting process and has paid that fee in order for them to do it. And with that, I close.
Great.
Thank you.
Members, any questions? All right, thank you. At this time, House Bill 4819 will be left pending. Members, we're going to go slightly out of seniority order. We have a bill with very few registered witnesses. And so at this time, the chair lays out House Bill 4820. The chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 4820, and the chair recognizes Representative Orr to explain the bill and the committee and the differences that are included in the committee sub.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Under current law, TCEQ requires nonprofits to find a pass-through to receive any funding rather than contract with nonprofits directly. Therefore, nonprofits must reach out to local governments or institutes of higher learning to receive the funds and pass them through. The committee substitute clarifies that the direct award would be for the purpose of implementing a CCMP or a comprehensive conservation management plan under Section 320 of the Federal Water Pollution Control Act for our national estuary in the state. Texas Water Code 5.124, Section F2, should be revised to allow nonprofits to directly award grant funding to a nonprofit organization or partner. With that, I welcome any questions and reserve the right to close.
We'll recognize that, right? Members, are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Chair calls Bob Stokes. Appreciate you being here. We show you registered to testify as Bob Stokes on behalf of the Galveston Bay Foundation, and that you are for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Orr, and thank you, committee. My name is Bob Stokes. I'm the director of the Galveston Bay Foundation. Our organization is a nonprofit organization that was formed in 1987, whose mission is to preserve and protect the natural resource of Galveston Bay. We work cooperatively with all the different user groups across Galveston Bay. And by that, I mean we work with the recreational users, the folks who are fishermen, sailors, kayakers. We work with the commercial users. Those are the oystermen and the shrimpers. And we work with the industrial users. We've got a big industrial presence around Galveston Bay. We bring everybody to the table in an effort to work on the long-term health of Galveston Bay. Since our inception, we've also worked with an entity called the Galveston Bay Estuary Program. It's a governmental entity. It's the only non-regulatory part of the TCEQ. The estuary program is one of 28 national estuary programs across the country, with 2 being in Texas. They bring together a diverse group of stakeholders to work on issues faced by Galveston Bay. When the estuary program was formed in 1988, its first big task was to create a comprehensive conservation management plan. Ours is called the Galveston Bay Plan. It's a document about 3 inches thick, and it lays out all the issues in the path forward for Galveston Bay to address those. It was finished in 1995. It's been updated several times since then. The estuary program brings federal and state funding to Galveston Bay to contract with stakeholders like the Galveston Bay Foundation to implement projects to implement the comprehensive conservation management plan. These are things like habitat restoration, which include wetlands and oyster reef and seagrass, water quality work, land conservation, and public engagement projects. despite the fact that we've worked closely with the estuary program since its inception, and we've done dozens and dozens of projects for the estuary program, the estuary program is generally prohibited from contracting directly with nonprofits. And like the representative mentioned, we have to go out and find a local city or a university to be a pass-through for a contract. And we do this, and we have done it, but it's terribly inefficient because it creates two sets of contracts, it creates two sets of reporting, and then also the pass-through generally takes an overhead percentage. So money that could be going to the project is no longer going to the project, it's going away as overhead. And so HB 4820 seeks to cure that by specifically saying that the nonprofits would be eligible for directly contracting with the estuary program. We contract directly with other state agencies. We contract directly with TPWD. We contract directly with GLO. There's no policy reason that we shouldn't be able to contract directly with the estuary program. And I want to also mention finally that it's not just the Galveston Bay Foundation. There's probably at least a dozen other nonprofits who currently work with the estuary program. And I know for certain that estuary program staff would like to see them have the ability to contract directly with us so they don't have to worry about two sets of contracts. So that's it from me. Thanks again, Representative Orr, and glad to take any questions.
Great. Members, are there any questions?
Yes.
Chairman Guetta.
Thank you very much for coming and testifying. Can I be honest with you?
Yes, please.
What I'm hearing is a certain amount of duplication of efforts and maybe even some conflict within those efforts. Am I correct?
Well, I would say that there's a broad group of stakeholders who work to implement the Galveston Bay Plan, and we all move forward by consensus. We all work really well together. The duplication of efforts comes with a simple double contracting that has to happen for the nonprofits, right? So they're not really duplicating efforts, they're adding efforts. So it's a contractual effort for, and I'll give you an example. So we work with a lot of cities around Clear Lake area. So when we get funding, we've gone to the city of Nassau Bay or the city of Kemah. The estuary program has to contract with that city then contracts with the Galveston Bay Foundation to do the work, rather than the estuary program just contracting with us directly to do the work. And so it creates a double set of documents, it creates a double set of reporting. And again, that city will often ask for some funding out of that grant because they have some reporting to do that they wouldn't ordinarily have to do. So that money doesn't actually go to the project on the ground. So really, it's eliminating the duplication is what we're trying to do.
So again, I'm hearing duplication.
Yes.
And I'm also hearing a lot of consultants being hired for the same thing.
Well, again, yeah, and we're trying to fix that by just allowing them to contract directly with us and eliminate the double-sided effort that happens here.
Yeah, because a lot of times we see duplication of efforts, which basically means a lot more dollars, taxpayer dollars going into this unnecessarily. And
I agree.
Okay, so you,
I mean, so we're trying to eliminate that extra level of dollars that would be needed to make the work happen and do it simply and efficiently with just the direct contract.
and again, more consultants.
No, less consultants, fewer consultants.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
because-
that's the goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not currently the deal now.
Right, exactly.
So it's, at the end of the day, it's costing taxpayers extra money.
Taxpayer funds are being used inefficiently. We're trying to fix that problem and make it more efficient.
Well, I applaud that effort, and we definitely want to see that happen because nobody likes the duplication of effort, which means duplication of consultants, which means ultimately more tax dollars, and
Agreed.
that's just not right.
And less accomplished.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions? All right, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's it for registered witnesses. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against 4820? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Representative Orr to close on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. With that, I close, and I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 4820 and that it be sent to local and consent.
Ready?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 4820. Thank you, Representative Orr. House Bill 4820 will be left pending at this time. All right, the chair lays out House Bill 1351, and the chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 1351. Chair recognizes Representative Hernandez to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. House Bill 1351 seeks to distribute funds back to counties that voluntarily participated in LIRAP, the Low Income Vehicle Retrofit and Accelerated Vehicle Retirement Program. LIRAP is an air quality improvement program overseen by TCEQ. The program is self-funded through a $2 to $6 surcharge added to each vehicle emission inspection in participating counties. LIRAP allowed counties to use funds collected from the surcharge for local clean air initiatives to improve air quality, such as working with law enforcement to combat fraudulent inspection certificates, temporary tags, and catalytic converter theft. Currently, LIRAP still exists in statute, but the funds have not been distributed since 2018. As a result, counties in the program ended collection of the surcharge. The state treasury currently holds about $176.3 million collected through LIRAP, and these funds are unable to be used for their intended purpose to improve air quality. This bill would require TCEQ to return the fees collected by the LIRAP program back to the participating counties to fund eligible air quality initiatives. The committee's substitute gives the legislature more flexibility to return the total funds in subsequent sessions. Be happy to answer any questions. I think we might have some witnesses.
We do have a few members. Are there any questions? Absolutely. Members, any questions? Or we'll get right to those witnesses. Thank you. Chair calls Cyrus Reed. Cyrus, we show you registered as Cyrus Reed on behalf of the Lone Star chapter of the Sierra Club, and that you were testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
Very much so, and I thank Vice Chair Hernandez for bringing this bill to us. You might have seen it before, but this is the LIRAP and the LIP program, and I don't know if any of you remember Warren Chisholm from Pampa, 2001, but he passed a bill a while ago, and then Kip Averett expanded that bill, and it was to allow counties that have air quality issues, and so it was the Houston area, the Dallas area, and the Austin area, basically, were the counties that enacted it. I think El Paso might have done something as well. And they said, drivers, when you get your inspections, we're going to add a couple dollars. We're going to collect that money, send it to TCEQ. The legislature will appropriate it back to us, and we'll use it for local air quality efforts, whether that's inspection enforcement or programs to help people repair their vehicles that were failing those tests. But as the representative stated, since 2018, no one's been able to use those funds. It's sitting there in a fund at the comptrollers, I guess earning interest, helping you guys certify the budget. But we, the drivers, paid for it. And so we, the drivers, would like that money back so we can use it for the purposes for which it was intended, which was to help clean the air and also, help on inspections, make sure people don't do fraudulent stickers, things like that. So we just want our money back. Free the money. It's what we did with TURP. Remember, TURP wasn't getting allocated. We want to do the same with LIRAP and LIP and get it back to be used and useful. And so that's the purpose of the bill, and we very much support it.
Great. Looks like we have some questions. Thank you for your testimony. Representative Mesa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think both the author and you have mentioned that since 2018, we've been unable to use those funds. What's the reason why we're unable to use those funds? Why can't we use those funds?
So,
the money's there. I think in my area, COG, the Council of Governments, does it, and so why can't we access the funds?
To access the funds, the legislature would need to appropriate those funds. In 2018, I'm not trying to get too political here, the governor did veto, did a line item veto. So I think the legislature has rightly concluded that we don't want to appropriate that money if the governor's just going to veto it, right? Because then
I didn't know about the line item veto.
There was a line item veto.
That must have been in 2017.
This would have been
since 2018. We haven't been unable to use the funds.
Yeah, so it must have been in 2017 when he vetoed it. And so as a result, the county said it doesn't make any sense to collect this money if we're not going to be able to use it. So they stopped collecting the money. But even before the governor's veto, to be clear, we were collecting more than was being appropriated, kind of like TURP. So it's not. I don't want to say it's all on the governor. That was a decision he made, but since then we haven't been able to use the money. Now they were able to use some of the collected monies for a while, some of the counties, but not any time.
Do we have any insight into what the governor's objection was?
I'm sure you can contact the governor's office. I think he was. I
thought maybe a reason was given. I wasn't.
I'll say I think he had more concerns with the low-income Cash for Clunkers program that he did with the enforcement program. I think most counties, I think we have some county folks here, actually really want to use the money more for enforcements, fraudulent, local initiatives. But we're supportive of both programs, but it's ultimately going to be up to the counties what they want to do with that money.
Yeah, because it was a program that if you failed your inspection because of an emissions issue, then that program would help you repair your car so you could
Yeah,
pass
you
with
got up to
better.
$600 to repair your car, or you could kind of turn in your clunker and get up to, I want to say it was $3,000, $2,500, $3,000 for a new vehicle or even a used vehicle that met the emission standards.
Okay, well, thank you
And
for the.
thousands of cars were cleaned up because of the program, so it was
Yeah,
effective.
seemed like it was a good program. I wasn't sure I knew why we weren't using the funds, so thank you for the clarification.
Members, any other questions? All right. Cyrus, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Chair calls Chris Klaus. We show you registered as Chris Klaus on behalf of the North Central Texas Council of Governments, and that you are testifying neutrally on the bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Chris Klaus, Senior Program Manager with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We were the agency in DFW that actually operated and ran the LIRAP, the Low Income Repair and Replacement Assistance Program for the 9 counties that participate in North Central Texas. Really, the thought is, as was already mentioned, there's about $175 million that have been dedicated from a fee that has been, no expense to the state, that was, pretty much identified to be brought back and appropriated to the counties to be able to go into air quality programs. I think there's a little misconception these days in terms of the name of the part of the law that says the low income repair and replacement. That's kind of back from 2001, but I don't know that there's necessarily further interest to continue with a low income repair and assistance program. It's more to allow these monies to come back to be able to do the other components of this bill, which was a smaller component of all the money that was appropriated. It's called local initiative projects, system improvements, signal improvements, efficiency programs to get vehicles to and from where they need to be. But a big part of it is, and it's been growing tremendously ever since the veto of the funds and the money not coming back to the area, is the excessive increase in fraudulent inspections of our current inspection program, and also the paper tag situation that maybe many of you are aware of that is just skyrocketed out of control, that these registrations are being done fictitiously, fraudulently, costing the state money because those fees aren't being paid. I hate to say it, but back in November, if I'm not mistaken, late last year, a police officer in Grand Prairie was killed as a result of a pursuit of a vehicle that had a temporary tag. It found out that individual driving the vehicle had multiple warrants, and that paper tag was photocopied over 200 times. So we can see, and I know there's been a lot of effort by the Department of Motor Vehicle to curb this. So the database, when you do the querying, it looks like it's actually helpful, and it actually looks like it's reducing, but there's other ways that the folks that want to not do good things are finding ways around the system. For the inspection program, we still fail, just like Houston, Harris County, we still fail the the ozone standard. 2 ozone standards, in fact, in this last ozone season was actually one of our worst. Our ozone continues to increase. A program like this to be able to combat and curb the fictitious inspection programs that's going on would greatly assist. We feel one car might be up to, from the air check data that we do have, we estimated that around one car could be up to like 12 times a good car. So you multiply that by, the number of vehicles that we can see through a query out of the database that are actually being fictitiously passed, it starts to add up and have significant impacts in our air quality. So, Mr. Chair, I'll stop and take any questions.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions?
Yes?
Chairman Guetta.
Go ahead, my brother.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done, but go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. Real curious about this fraudulent tags, and you mentioned that really needs to be cleaned up, right?
Both on the registration side?
Yes.
And on the emission side, yes, sir.
At what point in the process?
And just to be sure that we're staying, since there is a pending bill on this subject, and to make sure that we're staying on the subject of the bill that's before the committee, I might direct you to Chairman Canales, who can tell you all about that.
You are, oh, I definitely, yeah, here.
On the paper tax.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Believe me, I will ask him about it,
Yeah.
but from your perspective, from your observations,
Sir.
all right, where is the problem?
Lack of enforcement.
On-
Bottom line.
On whose part?
Who's in charge of the enforcement program at this point is, I believe, the Department of Public Safety, but I don't place the blame on Department of Public Safety. They're resource limited. What this funding can do is reinstitute what we had as at the local level. We call them emissions enforcement task forces. The counties and local law enforcement all collaborated together to identify who and where are doing this fictitious activity and then eradicate it.
Okay.
So we saw a significant reduction of activity. You're never going to eradicate it, but we saw significant reductions when we had these task forces when this money was appropriated to the counties. Since the money, we allowed the money to stretch through 2019. Since that time, as enforcement started to wind down, the bad guys get the word on the street that, hey, it's almost free reign again. We can do kind of what we want. We're not going to get caught, or there's a less likelihood chance of it. So then the fraudulent activity increased once again.
Well, I'll take your hint, Chairman, and I'll talk to Terry about this. Believe me, I will.
I know you will. Representative Dean.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm glad you're good.
I'm just trying to keep my border buddy out of trouble. That's
Yeah.
Members, any other questions? We appreciate your testimony. Thank you
So
for being
much,
here.
appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Chair calls Stacy Suits. Constable, welcome. We show you registered as Stacy Suits on behalf of Travis County and on behalf of yourself as a constable, and that you are testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate y'all's time and efforts today. My office has the last Clean Air Task Force left when we got the veto in 2017. Dallas and Harris County pulled out of the program. Travis County, being the environmental oasis that it is, stayed in, because when I created our task force, I used existing positions. So it wasn't dependent on TCEQ funding in that aspect. We've got to get these task forces back up in Dallas and Harris County. Right now, we've got active cases with the U.S. Attorney, and we're working with the FBI, filing on inspection stations in Harris County, and we're going on wire fraud case, federal cases. In Dallas County, we're working with the district attorney there. We're filing falsified government documents on this stuff. We can sit at a computer and see hundreds of emissions tests done a day. And you got to figure you can only do 10 or 15, 10 or 15 minutes per inspection if you're doing it right. And that's doing it fast. So we got shops, and we can produce data and files showing it. And then as we turn them in, as we start to move on it, DPS will jerk the stations, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, the thing will open it up again with same operator, same machine under a different name, different license. So we're playing whack-a-mole on this, and we need help. Our task force, the Dallas County Task Force, trained my officers in 2009, and when we came back and started reworking with them again in 2017, the Dallas County Task Force said the paper tags were the big thing. And that's why my office is one that's been pushing the paper tag thing hard and heavy. And we're starting to push the emissions test. We're finding way too many fictitious inspections. And we need help. And we need to be able to get these things back on the ground. We're dealing with organized crime, and it's costing us a lot of money in sales tax, revenue, all kinds of things connected with the registration. And 60% of our air quality problems is from automobiles. So we take this serious, and I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, and Constable, just to be sure that we have it clear on the record, you are testifying in favor of the bill, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Members, are there any questions for the Constable? We appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll send you a write-up on the paper tax. We've had a lot of conversations with Representative Canales.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? Seeing none, Representative Hernandez, you're welcome to close on the bill.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, for your time today, and I respectfully ask for your favorable consideration. And I close.
Thank you very much. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 1351. Appreciate your layout, and House Bill 1351 will be left pending at this time. Chair lays out House Bill 3210, and the chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 3210, and the chair recognizes Representative Thompson to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Committee Sub House Bill 3210 is the CLEAN Act, very, very simple. We're asking stakeholders to come together to develop and make recommendations to the legislature with the goal of improving recycling rates in our state. Our recycling rates lag the nation. We're talking 16% aluminum cans, 15% glass bottles, and 11% plastic drink bottles. On top of that, we generate a lot of waste, and it's growing. There's a saying that a lot of people are moving to Texas, and they're bringing their cars, their kids, and their trash. Recycling is not a one-trick pony to fulfill all the environmental goals or simply to extend landfill life. Recycling is a booming industry with enormous economic potential. We're talking about investments, jobs, and also the satisfaction of doing the right thing for the environment. This past week, we've heard from just about everybody with concerns about this bill, and that's exactly what makes me think we're onto something. This bill may not hit all the marks, but as you'll hear today, this is a big issue for a lot of stakeholders and for our state. Also, don't underestimate the need to get out in front of the federal government on this issue. The EPA is making preparations to address this issue, and the more we can do to address it ourselves, the less we're going to be inclined for them to do it for us and for them to do it to us. Let's get a head start and benefit from the huge economic benefits and do it the Texas way. I have some witnesses here today who can testify on the economic impacts of recycling, the community impacts of jobs in the industry, and the need to source this material in Texas as opposed to importing it from elsewhere. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I request my ability to propose.
And Representative Thompson, thank you for the layout. I just wanted to be clear, since we did lay out the committee substitute, can you just briefly describe I just want to make sure that we have, unless that was the testimony, or excuse me, the layout. Was that describing the committee sub?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to be clear about that. Members, are there any questions for the bill author? Representative Morales-Shaw.
Chairman, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Representative Thompson, could you just tell me, like, based on what we do right now, how this differs? Could you give us some of the details about how this would differ from anything that we currently do?
Well, we really don't do anything like what this is setting up. This is setting up an actual council. There would be appointees from the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, a member from the comptroller's office, a member from TxDOT, a member from TCEQ. And basically what they're going to do is try and develop recommendations in ways that we can improve these numbers, improve these recycling numbers here in Texas. And you're going to hear a lot of testimony here from individuals that will talk about what's going on in a lot of industries. There's a much bigger push now to use recycled materials, and you see bottles and everything else that people are saying, this much recycled material in it. The problem is there's not enough of it coming in. There's not enough of that coming back. So in some cases, they're having to import this to be able to meet those goals. And, again, there's a lot of controversy over this. You're going to hear today from a lot of different people that have a lot of different ideas about this. And I think, though, it's a matter of us having some conversations around this now rather than later. You know, and I hope that after you hear some of this testimony, kind of maybe give this committee a little bit of an idea of, you know, exactly what we're dealing with here.
A quick follow-up question.
Sure.
Would you say that we lack a uniform system in Texas that, with our recycling systems that we do have in place right now?
I don't think we really have a system.
Okay, so this would address
I
some
think
uniformity?
I think that's what we're looking for with this legislation, is to try and give some uniformity, because there are, I know, you know, TCQ's got the MISRAC, and that program has been in place since the late 80s, I believe. 89, I believe, is when it was started. You know, and our numbers are still, you know, where they're at today. And I'm not here to beat up on them. They got their plate full. I mean, I think what this does is this gives a little different focus, if you will, and looks at this from a standpoint of the economic part of this recycling. You know, we've done a number of studies in regards to recycling here in Texas and the jobs. I mean, the recycling business in Texas, it's comparable to the dental industry in Texas as far as the number of jobs and the amount of money that's generated from this business. And I don't think people really realize that, but it's all over the place. And that's what this would do is, I believe what we're really trying to do here is trying to draw this down to a point to where we have a group of people that are trying to advise the legislature on, hey, here's some steps that we can take going forward. And I think that's important. You know how it is up here. We get a lot of advice from a lot of people, and some of it is good. Some of it maybe is a little bit skewed to the fact that they've got an interest. And this kind of takes that out of it. This takes that part of it out of it. And that's what I believe is going to be necessary. You know, for us to be able to establish some really good opportunities down the road for us to come up with legislation, and maybe not even legislation, but some programs that we can help to enable that to take off and to you know, get things going here in Texas.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Chair, let the record show that Representative Lopez is here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll recognize your right to close. This time, Chair calls Steve Shannon. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We show you registered to testify as Steve Shannon on behalf of the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm pleased to represent the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling today. We are pleased to convey to the Environmental Regulations Committee, by vote of our Board of Directors, our support of passage of HB 3210 as it is presented to your committee today. We have vetted our position with many of our stakeholders in the recycling industry. We support the bill for its potential to advance recycling in Texas and to provide a pathway for Texas to amplify the economic, employment, and environmental benefits of recycling. We respectfully suggest the following enhancements. Material recovery facilities and processors are a separate but essential and critical segment of the recyclables supply to manufacturing chain, and are largely separate from the collection and hauling and landfill operators. We suggest that the council will be more effective if a representative solely from the material recovery facility / post-collection processor industry is an appointed member of the council. While the proposed scope of the council is broad and visionary, we feel that it would be more effective if language is included that specifically directs the council to seek input from all interested stakeholders during its deliberations. We thank you for the opportunity to submit this testimony. I'll be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Chair Chair calls Stephen Minnick. Mr. Minnick, we show you registered to testify as Stephen Minnick on behalf of Republic Services and that you are testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Stephen Minnick, representing Republic Services. And I have registered against the bill, but I do want to make it clear that I have briefly looked at the committee substitute, and I applaud Mr. Thompson for making a lot of significant changes. They've addressed a lot of our concerns, and we want to continue that conversation. And my position also does not represent that we are opposed in any way to the goals of the bill, which is to improve recycling, because that's what we do every day. My company is laser focused, and our competitors are laser focused on improving recycling because it's what we get paid to do. It's our business. It's our core business. It's a part of our core business. So it's something we have granted, it's a vested interest, but it's a vested financial interest for us and for our customers, which is hopefully every city in the state of Texas at some point. I think there's a lot of frustration about people who want the rate of recycling to improve. No one wants the rate of recycling to improve more than we do, because again, it's part of what we do. And I think people get frustrated because they don't see the pace of that improvement fast enough, or they don't think it's improving fast enough. I assure you, we are spending millions, many millions of dollars on infrastructure, the technology to properly sort waste from the single stream recycling that they pick up at your curb every morning. But at the end of the day, what is recycling has to depend on a market. I can recycle all day long, generate tons and tons and tons of recyclable commodities. But if someone's not willing to pay me for that and put it back into the system as a raw material, I've accomplished nothing. And so I would suggest that we need to move the focus of this not to how much is recovered, but how much is actually used. And that's a key difference in the goal of people looking at what we want to accomplish. Well, not only do we want to accomplish improving what we recover, we have to improve the percentage of what we actually reuse in manufacturing processes and new products. Otherwise, we spend a lot of money to accomplish very little, quite frankly. And I think that needs to be a perhaps shift in focus of this whole conversation. It may be that perhaps most people don't see the investments we're making, but I assure you we're making those investments. Part of what concerns us about the bill is there appears to be a kind of a presumption that single stream recycling doesn't work. Well, single stream recycling does work. And in all honesty, I think it's the only way that you're going to convince members of the public to participate. It's how they see what actually happens every day, because when they put the trash out once or twice a week, they're participating in something they can relate to. The problem is, if you make a presumption that to improve recycling, you have to divert material from the single stream, and the bill specifically calls out beverage containers and plastic bags. Beverage containers are some of the highest value commodities that we deal with in the recycling stream. When you take those commodities out of the single stream that we pick up in front of people's houses or your businesses or your apartment complexes or your institutions every day, you devalue all the remainder of the recycling stream. You devalue mixed paper, you devalue cardboard, you devalue all the other materials that are not so readily converted into new products. What that does is that then hurts the cities whose material we're picking up for their constituents. The cities have a vested financial interest in this because they benefit from the value of those commodities that are eventually turned into sellable products. If you devalue the entire recycling stream, you're hurting the cities. You're also devaluing the investments of many millions of dollars we made in advanced recycling. We're also investing enormous amounts of money in going the next step, which is to take the material we recover and actually convert those plastics, for instance, back into usable products. That's a very expensive. It's not a mechanical process; it's a chemical process, and it's a lot of advanced technology and a lot of science. But we are getting to the point where we can convert plastics back into their original polymer components and remanufacture plastics with them. Because that is so expensive, it takes time, and I would ask that we be a little bit patient to give that process some time to work. We are building such a facility in Las Vegas right now to serve the Southern California market. We're building another one, or have another one planned in the Ohio market very soon. And I'm hoping our third facility comes to Texas, because this is where we really need it. Some additional concerns that I want to continue the conversation to address. The goal of 85%, that's a very, very aggressive goal. And as I mentioned earlier, I can recover 85% of the recoverable materials in theory, But if I don't have a market for them, what have I really accomplished? So again, I think we need to maybe re-examine that goal in terms of what's actually not only doable, but what actually is most beneficial to us. If you look at the programs other states have put in place, the diversion program in California, the fiscal note on the program in California was $5 billion. That's $5 billion imposed on manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers of products. That works out to $500 million a year. In Texas, that's something on the border of something less than $20 for every man, woman, and child in the state of Texas forever to improve recycling. And I think that's a return on investment calculation we need to examine. And I think also justifies, given what we're currently doing, the rationale for continuing to do it and measure that progress and see where we go before we make any significant changes to it. I know this is something that's very dear to Representative Thompson's heart. We agree with him on this entirely, and we look forward to working with him and with this committee to see if we can't all get to the same place we want to be, which is improving our rates of recycling.
Thank you, Mr. Minnick. I know we have a few questions. Representative Dean.
Thank you. And I know we have a lot of people want to testify on this, so I'm going to try to keep mine short. But have you spoken with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Minnick, on all the things you just
We've
belabored?
had a number of conversations with this office.
Okay.
And again, he is, if there's a member of this committee or this body that is up to date on solid waste issues, it's Mr. Thompson, I assure you. And it's something we have conversations.
And so you've looked at his sub?
Yes, yeah.
And
it resolves a lot of the issues, but it's the bill, intentionally or not, still presumes a certain approach to take. And we simply urge that we have a conversation about that presumption before we go further. That's really all.
Just a quick thing. I mean, right now with the recycling, I mean, listen, a lot of cities have had problems with the recycling, right? China used to buy up all of our stuff. They're gone. But there's a lot of programs right now with the chemical companies that are doing some programs where they're recycling and breaking down the molecular structure of plastic to create this new super clean thing. So hopefully that's gonna help. But I'm just wondering, and we'll talk some more with Ed when he comes up, but with all those programs and billions of dollars coming about, that looks like to be a new marketplace than what the original intent of recycling was.
That's
Okay.
exactly what we're doing.
All right, well, you guys get together, man, figure this out.
I have no doubt we will.
Republic, come on, guys.
Members, any other questions for Mr. Minnick? We appreciate your testimony. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Chair calls Tyler Rudd. Thank you for being here. We show you registered as Tyler Rudd on behalf of the Wine Institute, testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Tyler Rudd, Central States Counsel for the Wine Institute, and I am here in respectful opposition to Representative Thompson's bill. The Wine Institute is a trade association of roughly 1,000 California wineries and affiliated businesses. We produce roughly 90% of the supply of wine in America. So with that, there are a lot of glass bottles, as well as some plastics and Tetra Paks, various things that we're working with to try to reduce our carbon footprint. The great thing about glass is it's infinitely recyclable, and we are exploring different ways to deal with that. One of our members actually has one of the largest glass manufacturing or glass recycling facilities in America. Representative Thompson's bill, I have to applaud you because recycling is definitely something that everybody needs to talk about. And for us, we've seen a lot of different things in different states. One of the states that I cover is Colorado, and they recently passed what's called an EPR, an Enhanced Producer Responsibility Bill, which unfortunately was passed before they have any idea of what their needs are in the state of Colorado. I don't really want to see that in Texas as well. We'd like to see a needs assessment before anything is passed through in law. And what's great about the bill is that it's gotten people out and talking about what needs to be done. And as a stakeholder in the alcoholic beverage industry, a lot of my stakeholder friends and colleagues are really concerned about what's being passed, what's being done. The EPR program in Colorado has a fiscal note of no one has any idea because we have no idea what the needs assessment is. But that is essentially creating a tax on every producer of pretty much everything that you see in the store. So the idea, of course, was to spread the cost, but no matter what, it really is a tax on the industry. And for us, wine, it weighs quite a bit, especially when you pack it in different cases. And when you generally, what the enhanced producer responsibility programs do is they essentially tax you on the weight of your commodity. So for us, it would be hit very hard. So I'm glad that this has been brought up. I think it's time for stakeholders to get together in the state of Texas, as a Texan, to discuss this. However, creating this bill, this council right now, I think is a little premature in the sense of passing it into law. But thank you again for bringing it up, and I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Members of Representative Morales-Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Tyler, I heard you say that you think there should be a needs assessment, sort of putting the cart before the horse here. But based on what Representative Thompson said, it sounds like the council would look at recommendations, and it seems like an inherent part of that would be assessing the needs as the market stands today, and hopefully that's inclusive of your industry. Can you clarify that for me?
Yes, I mean, I agree that that's part of the council's responsibility, but it extends, I think, a little further than we're comfortable with at the time being. Just if the council itself would just do a needs assessment, I think that would be a great starting point. And then, next session and over the next interim, we can discuss how to go about fixing that. Where is it mostly needed? What's the best way? And I know the bill itself does a lot of that, but I think the way it's written now just goes a little too far for the time being.
Thank you for the clarification.
Members, any other questions? We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls Chris Makem. Show you registered as Chris Makem on behalf of Waste Management of Texas, Inc., and that you are testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, my name is Chris Makem, and I'm the Governmental Affairs Director for Waste Management of Texas. I also like to say at this point, we are the largest recycler in North America and in Texas. We appreciate Representative Thompson's efforts to bring these very important matters before the legislature and support continued discussions. However, WMTX Waste Management of Texas is opposed to some of the recommendations contained in HB 3210. Committee substitute. The committee substitute would create the Texas Cleaner Landscapes for the Economy, Agriculture, and Nature Advisory Council. This proposed council is not necessary as the Municipal Solid Waste Management and Resource Recovery Advisory Council, we refer to that as MISRAC, was created by the Texas Legislature in 1989 to advise TCEQ on solid waste matters and policy. This council is comprised of 18 members, representing city and county agencies, public solid waste districts, commercial solid waste landfills, planning regions, environmental perspectives, city and county governments, financial advisors, registered tire waste processors, professional engineers, solid waste professionals, composting and recycling companies, and general public representatives. So it has a very broad body of perspectives that are there specifically to advise the TCEQ on solid waste management. Some of these specific activities of MISRAC Council is charged with include review and evaluate the effect of state policies and programs on municipal solid waste, make recommendations to the TCEQ commissioners on matters relating to municipal solid waste management, recommend legislation to encourage the efficient management of municipal solid waste, and recommend special studies and projects to further the effectiveness of MSW, municipal solid waste management, and resource recovery. Resource recovery is recycling. Creating another 13-member Texas Cleaner Landscapes Council to advise the state on recycling matters could potentially create conflicting policies and programs. Now I'm available for questions.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? We appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here. Chair calls Lewis Mixon III. Thank you for being here. We show you registered to testify as Lewis Mixon III on behalf of Blue Triton Brands, Inc., and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you. And hopefully I got the pronunciation of your name correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's fine.
great. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairman Landgraf, members of the committee, Representative Thompson. My name is Lewis Mixon. I'm a professional environmental engineer, and I'm the natural resource manager for Ozarka brand 100% natural spring water and Blue Triton brands here in Texas. Now owned by BTB, we take tremendous pride in Ozarka. The 1,100 employees in Ozarka across 9 different locations here in Texas, from Dallas, from Hawkins, Houston, Pasadena, and all already refreshed branches around the state. We're engaged in sustainably sourcing our water from 3 Texas springs every day and making sure that we have great products for our communities. We're so proud to call Texas home. For years, we've been strong supporters of the Meadow Center for Water and the Environment, the USGS Texas Stream Team, the Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts, Texans for Clean Water, Keep Texas Beautiful, whom with we work to promote education, awareness, and to protect natural resources in this great state every single day. Recently, we partnered with Don't Mess with Texas and South by Southwest to help prevent littering as well. BTB is an industry leader in packaging sustainability. We welcome this opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 3210. We lead our industry in reduction initiatives, recyclability design, consumer education, material innovations such as the use of recycled content in our packaging. We're committed to reducing our waste footprint and keeping Texas beautiful. In 2022, this past year, 24% of our total portfolio was made from recycled plastic resins. This winter, we introduced 100% recycled bottles in our 1 liter and 700 milliliter formats. This is a very big challenge in Texas because we can't get the recycled content that we need to meet our sustainability targets, to grow and move forward. We want to foster a strong circular economy where bottles are recycled directly into additional bottles and strive to continue to raise the recycled content. To that end, we've committed that 100% of our products will be in packaging in either reusable or made from an average of 35% recycled content by 2025. Our employees would very much like those feedstocks to come from Texas. House Bill 3210 will boldly pave the way to prevent and reduce litter, improve in-state recycling, and further develop that circular market, not only for plastic and recycled plastic content, but aluminum and glass as well. This helps our environment, it creates jobs, and further grows our economy. There are ample feedstocks of potential recycled plastics, aluminum and glass in Texas to support our manufacturing base, but right now, we don't have a reliable way to access it. Instead, these commodities are often imported from places like California or overseas, particularly plastic resins, to be produced into rPET, recycled plastic resin. Aluminum can recycling in Texas after 30 years of BSRAC is at 16%. 84% opportunity right there. That would generate about $157.3 million for Texas in aluminum recycling alone. There's no doubt that the Texas environment and the economy is improved by locally sourcing these products. Unlocking our Texas feedstocks with a recycling plan unique to Texas is a huge opportunity for Ozarka and a huge opportunity for brands like us. We're committed to supporting a dynamic and efficient planning process to reduce litter and improve those recycling rates across Texas, wherever our customers are and for the whole state. To best serve Texans, any plan that's developed needs to be, number 1, performance-based, 2, convenient to customers, stakeholders, 3, an inclusive circular system, 4, industry-led, and 5, transparent and accountable. A plan like House Bill 3210 helps us reduce costs, grow jobs, and the economy. I look forward to and urge the members of this esteemed committee and the Texas legislature to support the work of Representative Thompson, House Bill 3210, and the Clean Advisory Council to keep Texas beautiful, improve our recycling capacity, and become a best-in-class and world leader in markets for recycled materials. Thank you for your time, your service, and God bless Texas. Any questions?
God bless Texas indeed. Members, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Chair calls Kevin Botts. We show you registered as Kevin Botts on behalf of Strategic Materials, Inc., and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Botts. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Strategic Materials. Dear Chairman Landgraf, the members of the committee, on behalf of Strategic Materials, I come before you today to offer the following comments in strong support of House Bill 3210, Texas Clean Act. Strategic Materials has been in business since 1896 and is the largest glass recycler in North America, supplying recycled glass cullet to glass container manufacturers and fiberglass insulation manufacturers. We operate 46 locations within the United States, Canada, and Mexico. We are headquartered out of Houston and have 2 recycling facilities in Texas located in Houston and Midlothian. I would like to share a quick data point to highlight the opportunity that exists with glass containers and recycling in our great state of Texas. Texas recycles less than 20% of glass bottles. The industry estimates that roughly 950,000 tons of glass are sold in Texas annually, with only 150,000 tons being recycled through glass processing. This leaves roughly 800,000 tons, potentially making it into landfills or wasted in Texas that could be recycled back into new glass bottles or fiberglass insulation. Fiberglass insulation is the largest user of recycled glass cullet in the state of Texas. There are currently 3 fiberglass manufacturing plants in Texas, with a 4th currently under construction in McGregor, Texas. All of which are large corporations supporting manufacturing jobs within the state. Recycled glass is a critical component of the glass container and fiberglass insulation manufacturing processes, and Strategic Materials has a significant stake in the effectiveness of these glass recycling programs. By generating more quality recycled glass cullet in Texas, these manufacturers will continue to reduce their energy usage and additionally reduce greenhouse gas emissions. When utilizing recycled glass and saving virgin mined raw materials in the manufacturing of new product, it is clear that using recycled glass has significant benefits to the environment of the region and should be prioritized. The legislation before you today would afford stakeholders to collectively collaborate on how best to divert materials that now have value away from the traditional means of being landfilled. It is imperative that the established council, through this legislation, evaluate the existing infrastructure for improvements to the current recycling rates and methodologies for glass and other beverage containers. Equally important would be the reporting from this council to the legislative body on concepts and ideas to progress beyond the current state of beverage container recycling, strengthening recycling collection, and outlining a comprehensive statewide litter prevention program. With the amount of glass packaged products sold in the state of Texas, a higher demand for recycled glass than what is currently being recovered from the stream, and our glass recycling facilities in Texas not running at capacity, there's an enormous opportunity to support Texas manufacturing. Recycled glass has a far greater value when used to make a new bottle or insulation than it does sitting in a landfill. Recovering glass in a more environmentally responsible way is a necessity. Thank you.
Members, any questions? Appreciate your testimony. Thank you. Chair calls Christopher Kruger. We have you registered as Christopher Kruger on behalf of Petra and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Landgraf, members of the committee. Thank you for holding this public hearing. My name is Christopher Kruger, representing the Pet Resin Association, Petra, in support of HB 3210. Petra is the industry association for North America's producers of PET, the clear and lightweight plastic used around the world to package foods, beverages, personal care products, and other consumer items. Petra represents the largest PET producers in the U.S. with 12 facilities here in Texas, including a recycling facility in Dallas. The Texas Clean Act represents a critical opportunity to support policies that strengthen our industry overall, and particularly here in Texas. Currently, Texas recycles 11% of PET bottles consumed in the state. To meet consumer and customer demands for the post-consumer recycled content and packaging, Texas PET recycling facilities must import plastic feedstock from other states, primarily California. At this time, PET recycling facilities in Texas are working under capacity due to the lack of local PET collected in Texas. Businesses need a secure domestic supply of material for American manufacturing. Increasing collection and access to PET waste would increase recycling rates and would have an incredible impact, establishing Texas as an important supplier of valuable commodities for American manufacturing, given its size and scale. HB 3210 is a well-crafted collection policy that offers a pathway for Texas to develop a solution to expand existing infrastructure, to collect valuable materials, and stimulate the state economy. Petra thanks Representative Thompson for his leadership on this issue and encourages support from the Committee on the Clean Act. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? Okay. We appreciate you.
Great, thank you.
Chair calls Matt Patton. We show you registered as Matt Patton on behalf of Angelou Economics and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Landgraf. Thank you, the entire committee. Thank you, Representative Thompson. We approach this bill from the perspective of economic development and what that would mean across the state of Texas. How do we increase recycling? If we want to increase the rate of recycling in Texas, one of the first considerations is the current access to recycling. How do we go about improving access? Well, we view this as an infrastructure project in which all 12 economic regions, as outlined by the comptroller, have a recycling facility. Having such a facility could be built new, or it could be a retrofit of an existing facility. This increases recycling accessibility throughout the state. Currently, one of the main barriers to Texans' participation in recycling is access to such systems. Increased access to recycling throughout facilities and related drop sites would provide all Texans a more convenient opportunity to participate in recycling efforts. Simultaneously, such infrastructure opportunities would spur economic growth and create new jobs. This opportunity would not be limited to one part of the state. This decentralized approach, again, increases opportunities to participate in recycling and promotes economic development. In short, if we were to go with new builds, we're looking at an economic output of $1.6 billion, or $258 million to retrofit existing facilities. New construction would create or support nearly 9,200 FTEs throughout the state of Texas and 1,175 for a retrofit. These are significant economic opportunities and opportunities to create significant jobs for people across the state of Texas and not centrally located in one part of the state. With that, I thank you for your time, and I am open to any questions.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Chair calls Jason Ball. Thank you for being here. We show you registered as Jason Ball on behalf of the Reterra Corporation and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Jason Ball. I'm president of Reterra Corporation. We're located in Houston, Texas, in the Ship Channel area. I'm also here on the behalf of NAPCOR and APR, which you're receiving a letter of support from. Both organizations support this bill.
But just we need to be clear in the record. You're only testifying on behalf of yourself and the Reterra Corporation. Is that correct?
Because I mistakenly inputted into the computer system.
Do we need to change that?
If we can.
Yes, please. If you would work with Marco here to make sure that we have the record correct.
Okay.
We'll wait for you to do that.
What are we changing it to? APR, the Association of Plastic Recyclers.
You're representing APR?
No. Corporation.
Okay. And APR.
And NAPCOR.
Can you spell that out?
Sure. APR is the Association of Plastic Recyclers. NAPCOR. NAPCOR is the National Association of PET I'm just going to put APR MapCore. Okay, that's fine.
Is it updated? Okay. All right. With the updated information, we show you registered as Jason Ball on behalf of the Reterra Corporation and on behalf of APR NAPCOR and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. So Reterra is a chemical recycler. We've been recycling for the last 24 years in Houston. We've been making millions and millions of pounds of recycled material from plastics. Most of that material has been going back into plants in Houston for the last 24 years. And most of that material has been post-consumer material, 99% post-consumer material. We've recently moved to a new facility in Houston. That new facility has allowed us to triple our capacity from where we were. Up until a few years ago, we were running at 100% capacity for like 7 years. We also support 10 to 15 jobs for people with barriers to employment, barriers to employment, filling a critical need. A large limiting factor of our growth is one thing, that's collection. Collection rate's been flat for the last 15 years, and it hasn't changed, and there's nothing changing it. So something needs to change, and that something is House Bill 3210. It would bring stakeholders together to figure out how to craft a plan and a process to improve our recycling rate, and we need it improved. So let me go off script a little here for a second. Republic talked about how they're building a facility in Las Vegas. That's great. Right now, at the end of this year, we'll have 3.5 billion pounds of capacity to produce clean material from PET in the United States and Canada. Do you know how much material we have to support that capacity? 1.9 billion pounds. So when Republic puts that new facility online, somebody else that's made millions of dollars investments will lose that material. This bill, House Bill 3210, also will be beneficial to people that do pyrolysis, such as the ExxonMobil plant in Baytown. How is that possible? Every bottle that's collected, 10% of that bottle is a cap and a label. That's olefins. And that's what they need to feed that plant, and it'll be nice, clean material to feed that plant. Also, all the waste disposal companies, they actually should be winners at the end of the day from this bill, because there's going to be a lot more material collected. And they have the expertise, they have the assets, they have the experience to help make that happen. I'm sorry, I'm just upset from what I heard earlier. Some of it's not true. We need to view this plastic that's out there as oil. If we view it as oil, and that's what really it is, it's oil, we as Texans know how to deal with oil. And so if we view it as a raw material that's above the ground already, and we can get it into mechanical and chemical recyclers in the state of Texas, that's just a win for Texas. Part of the problem from what I heard earlier is right now, without an improved collection rate, it's a zero-sum game. The pie is not getting any bigger. We need to make the pie bigger for everyone, and by increasing collection, the pie gets bigger and everybody wins. Also, I heard earlier that some of the MRFs are not making money in selling these bales. Last summer, some of these bales got to 50 cents a pound, and I'm sure they were making a ton of money doing that. And the reason for that is brand owners are now demanding this material. And based on the goals they've set, those goals get higher every year. So they're going to demand it more every year. They're going to pay more every year for that material because there's not any more of it. So these bale prices are going to continue to go up. You didn't hear that before. the way to keep these bale prices under control and get the material we need to the brand owners is by increasing collections. Also, I heard talk about this advanced recycling. None of this chemical recycling going on is advanced. You know when pyrolysis was first invented, or at least it was patented? 1877. The system we use, glycolysis, was decades ago. So none of this is advanced. It's all well-known chemical processing. I heard earlier about EPR. EPR is not enhanced. It's extended producer responsibility. And this misery council I heard about, it sounds like they're not doing what they need to do, and so maybe they need to go away, and we need to replace it with 3210. Maybe 3210 can do a much better job. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you for your testimony, members. Any questions? Okay, we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair calls Hector Rivero. Mr. Rivero, we show you registered to testify as Hector Rivero on behalf of the Texas Chemical Council, and that you are testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Hector Rivero. I'm the president of the Texas Chemical Council, and here respectfully testifying against 3210. My good friend Ed Thompson, who has been a strong industry champion, appreciate you advancing this bill and the discussion here today. Representative Thompson, this committee is very well aware of the commitment that our industry has made around sustainability and achieving a circular economy. Just 2 weeks ago, the committee passed out an advanced recycling bill that's also sponsored by Representative Thompson that we're very grateful because it updates the statute to include new developing technologies in the space of advanced recycling that are going to help us even further improve the foundation and infrastructure to achieve our goals. As y'all know, I think I spoke before, our industry's invested over $8 billion in advanced recycling technologies across the country, and those systems are working. I really appreciate Representative Thompson advancing this issue because we need to have a discussion around how we can increase the collections and the sorting and the availability of plastic. That's, I think, a mutual goal shared by everybody in this room, whether they're proponents or opponents of this bill. Our industry has been actively engaged in the development of producer responsibility initiatives across the country. We prefer market-based solutions that involve collaborations between responsible producers and their customers, and that utilize existing curbside collection infrastructure and capitalize on proven advanced recycling technologies to realize a circular economy. Our industry is collaborating with our customers, the solid waste industry, and the recycling industry to identify these market-based solutions to increase the recoverable feedstocks and help us achieve these goals. As I mentioned before, chemistry is the science behind sustainability. The witness before me talked a little bit about that, and the business of chemistry has played an integral role in addressing our world's sustainability challenges. Our industry has not been involved with the development of this bill. We've been talking with Representative Thompson and his staff for quite some time. Representative Thompson reached out and told us that he was looking at advancing this bill, but the proponents of this bill did not ask for our input in the design of this advisory committee. And as the bill was filed, there was great concern because it creates an advisory committee that advises no one. It basically was a quasi-state agency and basically was granted authority to create the programs and then just report to the legislature. It even stated that the comptroller, in consultation with the advisory committee, may adopt rules for the program. Now, I applaud Representative Thompson because I think he's made some substantial changes in that, in the substitute, to say now they're going to make recommendations to the legislature. And I think that's really an important step, that if there's going to be stakeholder input, that it be made to the legislature and let the legislature determine the best structure to create a process that's going to hopefully enhance the recycling of these products. And not just the products that are cited in this bill, but we think we want to address recycling for many other items that are part of our supply chain: paper, cardboard, carpet, mattresses, packaging, plastic films, rubber, batteries. All of these are really important, and we need a really full spectrum piece. There's still some major concerns with the bill in the sense that you are allowing the governor to appoint certain categories of membership that are different than the lieutenant governor, who appoints a whole separate category of representatives. And in the committee substitute, I saw this morning that now the speaker actually can appoint members. In the original bill, the speaker could only make recommendations for a separate category of members. We believe that we need stakeholders like manufacturers, our customers, recyclers, and also the curbside collection infrastructure to be a part of the discussion to determine who should be on an advisory committee and hopefully do an assessment that can be made to the legislature to help develop this. We think this needs to be done within an agency, preferably an agency like the TCEQ, that would have oversight and that would make final decisions based on what the legislature recommends. This bill doesn't do that here today, and I think we would very much, in support of some of the other testimony given before, want to continue working with Representative Thompson to help give input on the structure of a real advisory committee that includes all of the right stakeholders. I think one of the witnesses earlier talked about the fact that it really is true. The success of getting to achieve the goals of 85% or even 100% or even 50% is going to lie in the general public being educated and participating in the process. And single stream recycling is really the key to that. Our advanced recycling initiatives are trying to capitalize on single stream, but I've testified to this committee. We're having to go elsewhere to other sources to get the plastics that we need to recycle. And so I do think there is a real growing marketplace for this. There's an incredible commitment on part of our industry around sustainability and recycling and eliminating plastic waste. But we want to be part of a larger conversation for all of the products that are out there that are going to need to be addressed. We see growing interest in battery and hydrogen technologies. There's a lot of new developments out there. We need solutions for all of these things and not just look to plastic, glass, and aluminum containers, okay? Lastly, I'll leave you with a comment that we would, I think it was shared earlier, this in some ways is similar to legislation passed in California. It has some inklings of that, and as it was mentioned, it's a $5 billion fiscal note every year for the implementation of the California EPR program. And I know this legislature doesn't necessarily look to California as a role model for some of these programs. I'm sure you can attest, Representative Dean. So with that, we want to continue working with Representative Thompson. Thank him for bringing this forward, but feel the purpose of the bill needs to be more clearly defined. There needs to be better transparency, and the design and structure of the advisory council needs to be better thought out with the right people involved to help make recommendations to you, and that the roles of the advisory council should be limited in the sense that it's advising the legislature and or a specific agency that needs to really have oversight over this program. And with that, I'd be happy to stop and answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Thank you.
Appreciate you. That's it for registered witnesses. Is there anybody else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Representative Thompson to close on the measure.
Well, y'all can just start calling me Representative California Ed.
Yeah.
California Ed. This isn't the California plan, and it's not an EPR bill, but, I think this is all a just classic of what we have all, everybody that's been on this committee has sort of seen. I was sitting there thinking about the Rocky movie, and where he's chasing this chicken, getting in shape. And I said, that's sort of what this is all like. It's sort of like chasing that chicken. No, he never caught it. So it just, at times, I wish we could get together and come to some kind of, realization that this is an issue, and it's a big issue, and one that we need to sit down and have some solid conversation. And I believe this bill starts that conversation. I'm not saying it's perfect. We're willing to work. My office is willing to work with anybody, anytime, or any member, anywhere, anytime, to get to something that I think and I hope, we all think that would be good for the state and good for the public that we're served.
Well, you've always demonstrated a willingness to work with others. Do you have time for a few questions?
Sure.
Representative Dean.
Ed, man, thanks for the, thanks for the bill and the information. And, listen, anybody's here today doesn't think that we're moving into the next generation of recycling. Hadn't been really keeping up with what's going on. A couple of things. One of the witnesses, I'm trying to remember if it was Mr. McComb or exactly who it was, said that currently that the TCEQ has some advisory group of some kind has been in place since, probably when Rocky was chasing that chicken.
Right.
But is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But I think one of the things that I'm hearing is maybe it's the board. It's too broad. Okay, and it's trying to deal with a lot of different things. Is there any way, to kind of take a look? I've got your sub and stuff right here, but is there any kind of way to maybe compress that somewhat to where it's, because like I said, I think we all know that this new generation of recycling, the Chevrons, they're spending billions of dollars on all this new, in my city alone, Eastman Chemical, $1 billion. So is there any way to maybe look at refining or compressing, the exactly what you'd be having this board, concentrate on? Like I said, we have a whole new generation of stuff coming.
Sure.
Listen to the wine man, Mr. Rudd, about the glass and how heavy glass is, but the petrochemical and the PET and all that stuff. Those are a little bit different, So I just wonder if there's a way to.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sometimes some of these agencies are, it's sort of like our offices. We just have so much bandwidth within our office to do things. That's one of my big concerns is that it's like anything. You sort of prioritize what you're doing, and when you're up to your eyeballs in issues, sometimes the things that aren't the most pressing things are the ones that don't get done, and so that's a great question, and I can't give you. I don't know that I can answer it.
Well, I was just wondering. I was just wondering.
Like I said, if somebody wants to come in and sit down and us talk about that.
Well, that's what I was.
100%.
I guess that's where I was kind of heading with the questioning is the people that, you had a whole lot of people supporting the bill.
Sure.
The people that aren't supporting the bill, why not try to have a little bit of a stakeholders group and try to see if there's ways to, improve the bill.
Yep.
Again, I think it's a big deal for Texas, this whole recycling thing, and would be good for the economy, be good in so many different ways. So anyway, my 2 cents.
I appreciate you.
Catch that chicken, man.
Amen.
Members, any other questions?
All right. Thank y'all.
Well, thank you, Representative Thompson. Appreciate your layout. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 3210. And at this time, House Bill 3210 will be left pending. The chair lays out House Bill 1929 by Representative Leo Wilson, and the chair recognizes Representative Hayes to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Member Leo Wilson is in another committee. Appreciate the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1929. Current state law prohibits the installation of on-site sewage facility.
Hey, please take your conversations outside so that we can listen to the member who's laying out a bill. Go ahead, Representative Hayes. I'm sorry about that.
State law prohibits the installation of on-site sewage facilities on properties under half an acre. And while on-site sewage systems are not unadvisable on most small properties in Texas, certain systems remain perfectly safe for properties with sufficiently sandy soil. That is, you can run a perk test and see that it would easily handle the water that's being put back onto the property. This has created an untenable situation on the Bolivar Peninsula in Galveston County, a unique, rapidly growing area home to 2,700 residents. Because the Bolivar is unincorporated, resident sewage needs are met by a private wastewater service provider, a provider which has been the subject of numerous complaints and questions regarding its capacity. This is why HB 1929 allows property owners on the Bolivar Peninsula to, in compliance with all other permitting and engineering rules, install drip systems on properties under half an acre. Bolivar residents deserve a wastewater alternative, and this bill would provide one, allowing development to continue and protecting public health. That's the bill, and I reserve the right to close.
Well, that's a really good layout considering it's another member's bill. Very well done. Members, any questions? All right, we'll certainly recognize your right to close. We do have a few registered witnesses.
Thank you.
Chair calls Denise Lang. Welcome. We show you registered to testify as Denise Lang on behalf of Lang's Septic Service, LLC, and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good evening. My name is Denise Lang, as he said, and I own Lang Septic Service. It is a Texas woman-owned business. Very proud of that.
Denise, if you, just one moment, want the record to reflect that Representative Reynolds is present. Please go ahead.
Okay, good. We install aerobic sewer systems on the Bolivar Peninsula. For the past 14 years, we've installed the Clearstream aerobic system. Galveston County permits these installs. It is a very thorough permit process. They come out to the job site prior to us doing anything, do a perk test, do a soil evaluation. What you have there in the handout shows what the drawings are, what our registered sanitarian provides us, and that is what we must install. It is inspected prior to and after installation. After the install, the homeowner is required by Texas state law and enforced by Galveston County very thoroughly that we come out to the home, or another provider like us comes out to the home 3 times per year and inspects the system and makes sure that it is still in good working order. These systems work very well, simply put. We have the unique situation of having a built-in sand filter. It does a very good job there. After Hurricane Ike, any home that was rebuilt had to have, if it had an existing system, that had to be inspected for damage, and a new system had to be installed if the existing system was too damaged to perform. Prior to the storm, we had over 8,500 homes. We have installed over 1,000 of these systems, and I do the maintenance inspection on over 1,200 of the homes on our peninsula. 95% of these installs have been done on 50 by 100 lots. That has been going on for the past 14 years. We inspect them quarterly. They're working. They're doing a great job. Many of the conventional sewer systems that were in place prior to the storm, we replaced those as well. Galveston County Health Department has been diligent in enforcing the ongoing system inspection requirements. Their oversight on both the provider and the homeowner ensures that the installed systems are kept in good working order. I have worked closely with Galveston County Health Department concerning system design parameters that would further ensure that any system variances that are agreed on will make sense at application. This includes a larger emitter bed, county-required professional oversight via quarterly inspections, and deed restriction enforceable usage limits. These changes would further ensure that the systems we install continue to provide excellent wastewater treatment.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chair calls Randall Chalette. Welcome back. We show you registered as Randall Chalette on behalf of the Texas On-Site Wastewater Association and on behalf of yourself, and that you are testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Chairman. We oppose this bill because soils are not equal across the state. And this is really a specific situation, specific to Galveston County. I grew up in southeast Texas. I lived in Highland for 8 years as a young man. I came from the shrimping and fishing industry. I know that area very well. I used to make my livelihood from collecting oysters out of the bay in the wintertime and shrimping in the spring and fall. It's a very sensitive watershed. The GLO has some really good documentation on how much human waste is actually measured in our coastal regions. We're doing a really good study. I was able to be a part of that a few weeks ago with GLO, starting to do some studies in Orange County along the Neches River, seeing where we have failing septic systems. And one of the biggest problems, which I stated in the handout to the committee, is many of these areas, like along the beach where these systems are being installed, they're very overloaded because they're not being used as individual homes in a lot of cases. They're B&Bs. You may have 15 or 20 people in a B&B. Some are managed better than others, but you still have overloading, and we still have pollution problems. Even though these systems work great and on-site, and we're not promoting on-site, what we don't want to see is wastewater rapidly moving through the sand and going to the water table, because you can't make wastewater disappear. We're not there yet. We're close. There's some research being done at A&M to put drip systems in small hot houses with accelerated fans to help accelerate evaporation, where you have almost zero discharge. That's not something that's available. It's not a tool in the toolbox yet. What is available right now is the variance. The county has the ability, it's in our rules, it's in place. For each site, they can allow a variance where, if for these existing small lots, there's only so much property left on Bolivar Peninsula. And there is a failing municipal system there, or private system there for Crystal Beach area, but that needs to really be upgraded. And what they're trying to do is force these people to get onto that system that's already overloaded. And really, on-site is really a better answer. But they can't just blanket do this. And what we're really afraid of is if this were to pass, there's a lot of small quarter-acre lots around our lakes. When our lakes were developed, a lot of our reservoirs up around Dallas-Fort Worth and all. And we're afraid that there may be copycat-type happenings, and this would really be detrimental, because in those tight clay soils, then that water's going to run right off into those lakes. In the sandy loam, like we have in the Bolivar Peninsula area, you're going to have water. And even though these aerobic systems remove a lot of the BOD, we use the soil as a tertiary treatment. It's the final polishing treatment. You use the microorganisms in the soil, and when you try to put 300 to 400 gallons of wastewater a day on a postage stamp lot, you're going to short circuit that, and you're going to put raw sewage into the watershed. Galveston County tried to get this through TCQ as a blanket variance. They were denied. Then they went back through a petition to remove the half-acre minimum lot size and that's with public water supply. If you have private, if you have a well, you have to have a half-acre, and there's a reason we have all these lot sizes. And the borehole is not used anymore. They have to do soil site analysis to verify where the water table is, where the restrictive horizons are, where all of those types of things. And so this bill would allow untreated effluent to rapidly move down through the sand to the water table. And ultimately, the county does have the authority through our 285 rules right now and through their own permitting office to allow variances for each individual site.
Well, thank you for your testimony, members of the Representative Mesa.
Thank you, Chairman. As you said, the state of Texas has lots of different kinds of soil throughout the state.
Absolutely.
I'm from Dallas County area, so we have
a lot of clay soil up there.
Yes, and some shifting foundation problems sometimes.
Yeah, it shrinks and swells.
So part of your concern was that this bill shouldn't be state, that it's a kind of a regional problem.
Well, and the bill is specific to Galveston County the way it's written.
Yes, I noticed it says, looked it up, as a county with a population of at least 350, but not more than 370.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty narrowly.
It kind of ties it into pretty much Galveston.
Adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico, adjacent to a county with a population of 3.3 million. So we might as just well write in here Galveston, right?
That's right.
So this
It really
is
is
a problem unique to Galveston?
It is. It's actually not unique to Galveston. It's unique to a portion of Galveston County, which is Bolivar Peninsula.
And there's a better way to do it?
Yes, ma'am. It can be handled at the local level through a variance. And I think the local individuals were misled and told that they were not allowed to issue variances for these systems anymore. TCQ's had some turnover in their OSSF staff. They had some green people, and of course, we've been working with them to get new people in there, and they are. And I just think that they were misled that they are not allowed to use variances anymore. I've been talking with the folks, Ms. Lane and others, and I'm going to go back and talk with their health department, and I've had conversations with the TCQ here today. That is not the case. They absolutely have the right to give a variance for each individual site. That's what our rules allow.
So when we say they were misled, we're not talking about the homeowners or the property owners. We're talking about people in the government entities that...
Well, the variance is for the permitting. So in other words, if it's a small lot, our current laws right now require certain restrictions from the property lines. You have to hold back 10 feet. Well, typically in these variances, we just go ahead and allow you to use all the property right up to the property line instead of being confined to within the constraints of the normal standard rules. And so that's where the variances allow that designer and that regulator that's going to be reviewing that permit design to say, okay, this is going to work. And so they do have the ability to do that, but we really do not want to see just blanket half-acre minimum rule go away in Galveston County, because you have to have property to design on. And if you take that minimum half acre, there's a reason for that minimum half acre. It's to protect public health, public safety, environmental health, environmental safety.
And the people that are being misled are the people who work in the municipal government?
The county. The county
government.
is the authorized agent that issues the permit for the septic system. And they absolutely have the right to issue that variance.
And for some reason or another, they thought that they did not have the right to.
Yeah, they were told by someone, I don't know who, they're probably not even there anymore because they had some turnover with some new staff. When we went to TCQ about 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, when they were fixing to have some people retire. They had about 45, 50 years experience fixing to walk out the door, and there was nobody in the OSSF program left with any experience. And they had some newbies in there that may have misled the county in what their authority is.
It's all those boomers retiring.
I guess. I'm getting pretty long in tooth myself.
So this bill's not needed, or there's a better way
No,
to
ma'am.
do it?
We don't believe the bill is needed. We believe that when I go back and talk with the county, I believe the county will realize that they can issue variances on properly designed systems. The designer asked the county for the variance when they see that they're not going to be able to meet the design requirements that meet the rules.
Well, thank you. This might be a good time to have the TCEQ person come forward. What do you think? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions for Mr. Shillette? All right, thank you for your testimony. Chair calls Christy Mills Jurek. Thank you for being here. We show you registered to testify as Christy Mills Jurek on behalf of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and that you are registered neutral on the bill. And I believe we have some questions for you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Committee.
Representative Mesa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, sitting and waiting to see if we have any questions that you can answer. So this bill, as you heard, is kind of narrowly drawn to be maybe not even Galveston, but the Bolivar Peninsula or island, what is it?
It's Bolivar Peninsula, but it does target Galveston County as a whole. It doesn't specifically call out the peninsula. It's Galveston County for the entire area.
And so these variances, from TCEQ's perspective, who has the right to grant is there a right to grant a variance, and who has the right to grant the variance?
Right. The way our on-site sewage facility program works, where possible, we like to delegate to a local program. And in this case, it's the Galveston County Health District. They have an order that goes through our process. So it has to go through a public hearing. It has to be approved by our commission. And once that order is in place, they have the ability to basically act as the agency as far as granting permits and also granting variances. And so there's an established variance process, not dissimilar from the proposed bill. It does require that it has to be designed by a professional engineer or a registered sanitarian. It has to be approved on a case-by-case basis. So that process still exists, and Galveston County can use that.
So it's kind of a two-step process. At first, it goes through TCEQ, and once TCEQ reviews it, then it goes to the county?
So for the variance, no, because we've given them the authority to be basically the authorized agent for the on-site sewage facility program. Once they're the authorized agent, they have full authority to do that.
All
They
right.
grant the permits. They don't need to get our support. We're there as a technical support for them. We can give them feedback and advice, but it's really their program to manage.
So no two-stepping. Just that there's a request for a variance, the county can grant it. It doesn't have to go through TCEQ first. That's
Correct.
Do that.
So the part where they come through us is when they get the order established. So
when they get the,
They have to have an order, an
Order
ordinance that
established, okay.
explains it. So before they're allowed to have the authority to be an authorized agent, they have to show us their order, and if they make a change to the order, they have to run that through the TCQ as well. But they also have to have public participation before they make any change to their order. But
referring to
once-
the county.
Correct. Or whatever the authorized agent is, the county, the municipality. In this case, it's Galveston County Health District. So they have, once the order is approved, which is in the case of Galveston County and has been for a number of years, they can act and enact the 285 rules, which does include the variance.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Members, any other questions? We appreciate you being available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair calls Joe Forkner. Thank you for making the trip to be here. We show you registered as Joe Forkner and that you're testifying on behalf of yourself for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Landgraf and the committee members, I've been here since 10:30 chasing that chicken today in order to give this testimony. I'm here to talk about the Bill 1929. I am a developer, builder, and a realtor for almost 14 years after Ike destroyed Bolivar Peninsula and Crystal Beach. I have put in numerous hundreds of aerobic systems. I'm on my fourth development, fixing to start my fifth. When you develop a piece of land, let's just say I have 4 acres right now that we did sell out the lots that we did this last year. But we were held up 9 months because of this old 34-year-old rule about the half acre. If I were to have taken that one piece of property and divided that 4 acres into 8 lots, I would have had to sell that property at what they're almost charging for front row lots. I wouldn't have been able to do it. When you develop a piece of property, you try to put in as many lots as you can. That's what we're in the business for. I want to read you a letter from Gary Ganna. He is the registered sanitarian that I've used for 14 years, probably be the smartest with the most knowledge and an authority on sewer systems. He sent me this letter April 17th. Mr. Forkner, in reference to the aerobic systems on small lots located in Bolivar Peninsula. They do say Boulevard, but it is Bolivar. Mr. Faulkner, I have asked to provide my opinion concerning the viability of on-site sewer facilities to serve recently platted properties on Bolivar Peninsula that are served by the public water and less than half-acre size. As you know, I am a registered sanitarian, licensed site elevator and installer. I originally started as a designated representative septic inspector for the Galveston County Health Department. Since 1987, I've been designing on-site sewer facilities, OSSF, on the Bolivar Peninsula and in the surrounding counties. My experience on the peninsula is that most of the homes are 3 to 4 bedroom in size, and that most of the lots, common lots, are 50 by 100, 5,000 square feet. While I do not have an exact count, I would estimate that I have designed at least 2,500 aerobic systems on the peninsula of lots approximately this size. And he has. I've done quite a few, and he's been doing every one of them for 14 years. The first statewide on-site sewer facility rule went into effect 34 years ago, September 1st of '89. This original version of the rule provided sizing guidelines for properties platted after September '89 that were to be serviced by OSSFs. Paragraph 285, 4A, 1B, supplied by public drinking water. These properties were specified to be at least a half acre. However, there was a provision in that paragraph that allowed properties to be less than half acre in size as long as site-specific planning materials submitted by a professional engineer or registered sanitarian and approved by the permitting authority. In a subsequent rule, which was a revision of 2001, this provision has been removed. It is important to remember that these rules have been constructed for the entirety of the state of Texas, which includes 254 counties, 4 district climate zones, and at least 12 different soil classifications. Therefore, as a rule, it cannot be specific to any particular part of the state. With this said, I believe that most of it, if not all, of the lots platted to be on the public sewer could be developed with the homes being connected to OSSFs with no future issues related to the size. Sincerely, Gary Ganna, registered sanitarian. I have had maybe 5 phone calls in all these years I've been putting in aerobic systems. They were because their red light was on. Well, they needed to go out and clean their filter out, or lawn guy broke a pipe, or something froze. I was forced in my last subdivision, because of this rule, to use, I'm gonna say a grinder company. I'm not naming company names, which I think both of these sewer systems are approved by the Galveston County Health Department. If there's 2 systems, as a developer, I need to tell them what I want to use, not be forced to do it. I was held up all these months, and that's all I'm going to say about this. Thanks for your time, and I'm going to continue to chase that chicken. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, we may have some questions for you.
Go ahead.
But I also did want to clarify, I think we had it, but just that you were speaking for the bill.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, members? Representative Meza.
Thank you, Chairman. So, in reading the Legislative Budget Board, when they were talking about the fiscal note, they said that based on information that they had received, the bill could result in larger properties in eligible counties being subdivided, increasing the number of permit applications received. So you're a developer. Do you see this bill as in some way making people want to subdivide their property into smaller lots? Is that what it's saying?
I'm not for sure.
Okay.
Like I say, as a developer, I just finished 4 acres. I had 18 lots in there. We put 2 lots together to make it 17 and sold all of them. But I was forced to have to use and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars I wouldn't have had to if we would have got the variances in there.
Okay. Well, it's just that they were talking about the physical implications. The bill cannot be determined because the number of properties that would be subdivided, the number of permits that would be received are unknown. So I just wondered if you had any comment that you wanted to make on that since
No,
you're
ma'am.
a developer. Not, or, right, am I right that you're a developer?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay, so no reaction on that part. No help for us? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we appreciate you making the trip, and sorry that you had to wait so long to
That's
be able
all
to
right.
speak your
I'm
piece.
teasing.
No, no.
I like that, chasing that chicken.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Chair calls Tim Byram. Also appreciate you making the trip. We show you registered as Tim Byram on behalf of the Bolivar Chamber of Commerce and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank y'all for allowing me to come before you today. I've been a developer and a home builder for 38 years on Bolivar Peninsula. During Hurricane Ike, we lost 8,500 houses. We lost hundreds of businesses. Since Ike, we have rebuilt approximately 6,000 houses. So we're still got a long way to go before we can get back to where we were. After Ike, FEMA came in and bought a bunch of lots. They had money appropriated where if you wanted to sell your lot, they would buy it out. So that's reduced a lot of the lots that were available to be rebuilt. So this bill, and you're correct in the fact that you can get a variance for an individual lot. The problem we got is it's only allowed for an individual lot. As a developer, I've developed numerous subdivisions. I still have land to develop. For me to get a permit, for me to get the county to approve the plat for my subdivision, I have to provide wastewater treatment for that subdivision. The process used to be that I would design a subdivision. I would have a registered sanitarian provide a system for every house in that subdivision based on the number of bedrooms they have. The sewer system's based on how many you can occupy in a house. So if I had a 5-bedroom or 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, every lot that I was going to build a house that size on had to have a system already designed and submitted to Commissioner's Court for approval. Well, what happened now is for me to get a subdivision approved without this bill being passed, I can't get it approved because it's not an individual lot, and they only address variances for one individual lot. They will not do it for an entire subdivision. So I have to go to this private company. And what this private company does, for me to get it approved and get a letter, they've got to give a letter to Galveston County saying, we're going to provide wastewater treatment for this subdivision. I have to design the system. I have to pay a civil engineer to design the wastewater system. I have to install the system. I have to pay them $5,000 just to review the design and approve it. And then I've got to pay them $5,000 up front for every lot in that subdivision before I get that letter. So if you do a 100-lot subdivision, I'm giving them $500,000 just for the letter. Plus I'm paying for the design. I'm paying for a lift station. I'm paying for them to review it. And then after that's all done, then I've got to go put streets in. I got to put water lines in. I got to put sewer lines in. And they can't even tell me when I give them $500,000 if they can even service my subdivision. They told me on the last one I tried to do, they said, when you do all of this, you'll have to call us when you get ready to put a lot on our system, because we can't tell you when you do 100 lots, we can't tell you that we're going to do 100 lots. We can only do what we have capacity to do at the time you finish it. So they're telling me how I can sell my lots.
They started out at $9,000 to get on this system. $5,000 was the fee to connect to their system. $4,000 was the fee they charged to install this system, this grinder pump on your lot. They charged $50 a month to the people that that you sell the house to for them to be on the system. They have now increased their fee to $12,700. And it's $117 a month now for those people. Low to moderate income people can't afford to live on Bolivar anymore because now I fully expect that over time that fee per month may be $300-400 a month because they have the right to do whatever they want to do as long as the PUC approves their charges. They get to keep going and they're guaranteed a profit on their business with the PUC. So the more money they spend, we've had several town hall meetings with these people. They keep telling us that we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and all they do is make everybody believe that they're going to do it, and then they walk away. I've provided you with some information in your office. I mean, you can't drive down Highway 87 on Bolivar Peninsula without smelling sewer. All of the lift stations that they have on the peninsula are non-functional except for 3. There's 5 stations out there where they have open hatches, where they're pumping sewer. It's called pump and dump. They bring 18-wheelers up, they take it out, they haul it off, they put it in a frac tank. They've been doing this for 4 to 5 years, just putting it in frac tanks because they don't have the ability to process it. This bill, if it's passed, will only put it back to where it was when the TCEQ took the clause out in 2001. It will give me as a developer the ability to develop a subdivision. Because right now, I can't develop a subdivision. By the time I pay all the fees and put all the infrastructure in and pay this provider, my lots, I got to sell them for twice. And I don't have any beachfront high-end lots. These are just standard lots. When I build a subdivision, I put deed restrictions in there for the number of people that can stay in a house if they rent it, the number of vehicles they can have in the yard. And if they violate that and they're under a rental agreement, there's no choice. We move them out. They lose their deposit, they're gone. So we're trying our best to keep these people from overusing these houses. If you take a 5,000 square foot lot, the average house we build is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They range anywhere from 90% of what I build is probably in that category. You take a 5,000 square foot lot and you build an 1,800 square foot house on it, you got a 800 square foot deck, your footprint on that house that you can't put sewer lines in is not even half of that property. When we have Gary design a system for us, all we need is 800 square foot to put an OSSF system in. We always design them for 1,500 square feet, just in case we have to have additional field lines in the future. We've got the property to do it. So if you take 1,500 square foot for a system, and you take the footprint of the house on a 5,000 square foot lot, you got 1,100 square feet left on that property that doesn't have anything to do with a permanent building or a sewer system. Now, my lots are now developed. I don't do anything less than 8,000 square feet. So I know you can do it. I've got 5 houses under construction on Bolivar Peninsula right now, and all of them are on lots that are 5,000 square foot or smaller. These lots were grandfathered. When they changed the rule in 2001, it didn't affect anybody that had a subdivision prior to that. So I'm building houses. I've probably built 300 or 400 houses on Bolivar in the 38 years. So it's an effective system. It's the best system that we can get, and it's the best system that we know of right now. If somebody comes out with a better system, we'll do it. But nobody can guarantee you, whether it's public, private, or an OSSF system, nobody can give you 100% pure water coming out of a sewer system. If you're a public system or a private system, you're running it through a plant and you're dumping it into a waterway. It's not going in the ground. It's going in the water somewhere. Now, our system, OSSF, has another level. I mean, we're putting it in the ground, and it's evaporating out into the atmosphere. Yeah. It's not going directly into any water. So I think on our systems, we have another level. But the changing this rule, we're not changing it. We're putting it back to where it was before they changed it on us. I just provided you, I'm also the Vice President of the Bolivar Chamber of Commerce. We voted unanimously for this bill. The Galveston County Commissioners Court voted unanimously for this bill. I've got 2 additional letters from 2 commissioners explaining why this bill will help us develop Bolivar. And the Greater Galveston Chamber of Commerce is also supporting it. So everybody knows this needs to be done. And you're not going to, it's just not un-American to me for you not to have a choice on what you do with your property. And to tell us we got to use these people and we got to sit there and get these increases year in and year out, and they can't even provide service to us. They're not paying for any of their upgrades. We're paying for it. When I give, we had a meeting with Commissioner Leo Wilson, and they said, we just spent $1 million on a new plant. They didn't spend a nickel. Just my subdivision and one more subdivision gave them the money to spend that $1 million. So we're financing their business up front before they can even provide us with a service. So this will make them rethink what they're doing. It'll give us a chance, because nobody wants their system. Denise didn't tell you this, but they're going into people that were grandfathered, that were told they had to be on this system. They found out later that they didn't have to be. They're taking the systems out and replacing them with OSSF systems.
Yeah. Let me pause there to see if members have any questions. Yeah, we do appreciate your testimony. Thank you. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't.
No, I'll be glad to answer any questions you got. I mean, I could stay here all day and talk about this.
Well, it sounds like you got all the information. Yeah. Well, we'll leave it there, but do appreciate you making the trip and for your testimony. As Representative Morales-Shaw said, it was very thorough, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for registered testimony, but is there anybody else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? Seeing none, I'll recognize Representative Hayes to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make 4 points. 1, the owner submits a site-specific plan prepared by a licensed engineer or registered sanitarian, and then they have to get it approved by the county. So it's going to be site-specific. 2, as you heard, the law requires multiple inspections during the year. 3, as you've learned, the variance process is slow, cumbersome, and expensive. It's just an unnecessary step. And then 4th, as to the fiscal note question, there should not be any cost to the state as the permitting is done at the county level. So there shouldn't be a fiscal note. With that, I'll close.
Well, thank you, Representative Hayes. Appreciate you laying that out. At this time, House Bill 1929 will be left pending. You ready, Joe? Yep. Chair lays out House Bill 4086 by Chairman Kemple, and the chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 4086 and recognizes Chairman Kemple to explain the bill.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This bill asks the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas to conduct a study to identify locations in states suitable for aggregate productions. Despite the critical role the aggregate industry plays in the infrastructure of our booming state, these industrial operations can cause concerns that we are very well aware of about the impact of noise, dust, and traffic. This study can better help local governments, communities, industry plan for population growth while minimizing the negative effect of said growth on its population. The committee sub allows the UT Geology Bureau to accept gifts and grants to fund the study and stipulates that the Bureau is not required to do the study if the state does not appropriate money for that purpose. And I believe we have a witness, and I ask for my right to close.
Well, we certainly recognize that. We actually don't have anybody registered. But is there anybody who wishes to testify on, for, or against 4086? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll recognize your right to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll close.
At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 4086. Thank you, Chairman Kemple. House Bill 4086 will be left pending at this time. Chair lays out House Bill 3913, and the chair offers up a committee substitute to House Bill 3913 and recognizes Representative Morales-Shaw to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members, for allowing me to lay out 3913. There is a committee sub, and we've placed that before all the members today. The committee sub is really just a result of having worked with industry and come to an agreeable compromise. And even though they're registered as against the bill. It's in its original form, and the committee sub, my understanding is that it has satisfied their concerns, and they will testify accordingly. This bill is simply to help counties address remediation and cleanup needs. Texas counties have environmental contamination that threatens health and natural resources, the environment in general, but they don't have the adequate funds to neutralize the hazards or to remediate. Funds dedicated to remediation throughout Texas will fill some of this need. This bill creates a special fund that's funded by civil recovery funds. This fund would be solely used for cleanup and remediation, and it will be accessible to all Texas counties through state approval. This fund will be administered by the TCEQ. The Special Remediation Environmental Remediation Fund, also called SURF, will be funded by 50% of the remainder of civil penalties that are recovered from contamination events. The money in the fund shall only be used for environmental remediation projects as applied for and approved by the TCEQ. And just finally, I want to say that only industry bad actors would be concerned about this good bill, and then only remotely, because research shows that there's only civil penalties in egregiously negligent contamination cases. So that means extreme cases that a bad actor has acted negligently and it's resulted in great harm to the community and environmental contamination. So this fund is an effort. It's not enough to remediate all contamination, all the counties in Texas, but it's a good start. And with that, I remain open for questions, Chairman.
All right, thank you, Representative Morales-Shaw. Members, are there any questions for the
And
bill
reserve
author?
my right. And reserve my right.
You bet. We'll recognize that. Seeing no questions from the members, we'll go to registered testimony. Chair calls Shay Pearson. Welcome back, Shay. We show you registered as Shay Pearson on behalf of the Texas Chemical Council, and that you are registered against the bill.
That's correct, Chairman. And Chairman, members of the committee, hello again. Again, Shay Pearson, testifying today as General Counsel on behalf of Texas Chemical Council, respectfully against House Bill 39 as filed. And first and foremost, I would like to thank Representative Morales-Shaw's office for having an open door policy to listen to folks that had some concerns with the bill as filed. And those concerns primarily centered around the portion of the state's allotment of civil penalties as drafted in the bill, and the committee substitute that Representative Morales-Shaw just laid out addresses those concerns by reducing it to half of the state's 50% allotment of those civil penalties. And the other primary concern with the bill as originally drafted had to do with the preferential treatment of projects within the county that those civil penalties arose from, and a concern that really kind of just originated in almost incentivizing over litigious acts by counties in terms of bringing more litigation in hopes of putting more money in that fund to be put in front of the line for remediation projects that are now going to be used across the state. So we greatly appreciate Representative Morales-Shaw for having an open door policy and for working with concerned stakeholders. And the language that Representative laid out in her committee substitute has alleviated our concerns regarding that, and we will be neutral moving forward if that's the language that the legislature decides to go with.
Shay, thank you. Just to be clear, so for purposes of registering on the filed version of the bill, you're against for record keeping purposes. Is that?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any questions? All right. We
Thank
appreciate you. Thank you. Chair calls Mark Vickery. Thank you, Mark. We show you registered as Martin Vickery on behalf of the Texas Association of Manufacturers, and that you are testifying against the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chairman. Again, for the record, I'm Martin Vickery, representing the Texas Association of Manufacturers, respectfully in opposition to the bill. And I don't want to repeat everything that Mr. Pearson just laid out. Our primary concern with the bill as it was filed was it did seem to set up sort of an incentive for local jurisdictions to maybe take an enforcement action and assess civil penalties only to get that money back to do a particular cleanup. I'll add to what Mr. Pearson said. Thank you, Representative, your staff, and you have been more than helpful listening to our concerns. We also believe that the substitute, we've seen the language, and we think we're very encouraged by it. And I think we're certainly going to be able to get there as we work through and let our membership review that committee sub. And Chairman, that's all I have. I'm staying for questions.
Well, appreciate y'all working together so well to address some of those concerns. Members, are there any questions? All right, thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Representative Morales-Shaw to close.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just say that the intention of this bill is a pure intention. It's interesting how different parties can come at it from a different angle and see something else in it. But the intention of this bill is a pure intention to help any county in Texas that has contamination that's causing health hazards or environmental hazards, making our natural resources, putting them in danger, making it limited use for the people who want to use them, to clean it up. I mean, these civil remedies were recovered specifically because of that. And the point of this bill is to make sure that those funds go back to remediate. And that's the pure intention of this bill, and I ask for favorable consideration. My esteemed colleagues.
Thank you, Representative Morales-Shaw. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to House Bill 3913. Appreciate your layout. And at this time, 3913 will be left pending. Is there any other business to be brought before the Committee on Environmental Regulation? Seeing none, this does conclude today's agenda. If the chair moves to adjourn, is there any objection? Hearing none, the committee stands adjourned, subject to the call of the chair.